Welcome to another edition of The Best Business Minds, where we interview business leaders and academics that write thought-provoking books. I'm Marc Kramer, a serial entrepreneur who consults with family businesses and entrepreneurs. Today's guest is Jill Lublin, co-author of Guerrilla Publicity and a three-time best-selling author. Jill, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. Great to be here with you.
Great to have you. And in fact, I was interviewed by Jay Levinson. I want to say it's like 15, 20 years ago about one of the books that I wrote. So it's great to have you on board. Could you please tell us about your background and why you became a publicist?
Yeah, well, I'm actually, I'll call it a publicity strategist. And I used to own a PR agency. In fact, really, my whole background, I actually got started in the music business of all things. And, you know, you want to talk about learning perception. And the music business is all about perception. And I've always worked with business people, creative people, and now have morphed my business. You know, once I got tapped on the shoulder to write Guerrilla Publicity, my first book, and that was with J. Conrad Levinson, Mark, that you mentioned. Once I got to do that, here I am now doing publicity boot camps, making things really easy for small business owners, because I believe that publicity should be accessible for all people, as opposed to paying high-level PR fees, right? And so I've created really simple ways to get publicity done through boot camps. And on top of that, I run an intentional kindness circle. So those are the two things that I do now.
What's an intentional kindness circle?
Well, I wrote the book, The Profit of Kindness. And, you know, when I wrote that book, I have to say, God whispered to me, you got to do this kindness circle. And when COVID hit, I realized that that was the moment to do it. So on Zoom, I have, you know, gosh, we're close to maybe 300 people in the community. We get together once a month. We hear amazing 10-minute speakers like the head of the Random Acts of Kindness Foundation, or the guy who did the Kindness Diaries. I have all kinds of amazing people. And then we actually break into networking circles and share kindness. It's really super fun.
So you'll have to send me the information on that, and I can get it out to our listeners as well.
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate that.
So why did you co-author this book? And it's a part of a larger successful series, which includes guerrilla marketing. That's how I knew Jay. So why did you co-author this book?
So when I was running my PR agency, and I do a lot of speaking, I still do a lot of speaking all around the world on publicity. And, you know, at that point, Jay's agent, a literary agent, found me and said, would you like to write a book on publicity? And Jay wanted a book on publicity, and he's a smart guy and knew that he should find the best minds to write books on different subjects. And frankly, my area of expertise is publicity. So I got to do the publicity book. And that for me really launched my career. I mean, honestly, you know, having a book is a beautiful thing. And of course, being with somebody like J. Conrad Levinson was tremendous honor to be able to do that, to be able to do that and up level my speaking and career. And the truth is, I actually wrote the book, but he put his name on it because he's got the brand and the marketing, right? You guys,
right? Yeah, of course. Yeah,
yeah. That's how
and
it
it's
works.
a good brand, and it's a good brand, and everybody knows this brand. So kudos to you for even getting involved and getting the opportunity to work with him. And he's a real good guy. What is the guerrilla approach?
Well, you know, it's kind of a funny word because, you know, really guerrilla, how we use it is using time and imagination instead of a ton of money, you know, so that you can actually get things done without spending a fortune. Michael, I appreciate your nods and hellos, and hi, Jason. And
well,
Sid.
Yeah, I don't know
no
if you can hear,
no talking from the audience, please.
Yeah, okay, yeah, never mind.
Okay, but thank you. And so thank you. So Mark, so part of what the big piece was to really be focused on you know, giving people real things to do simply.
Excellent, excellent. So what's the difference which you write about between public relations and publicity?
So actually, it's the same thing. You can call it like tomato, tomato, right? So publicity is public relations. It's all the same. And that's really what I want you all to do today is and always is get your word out there without spending a fortune, create visibility and create credibility so that so that the power of what you are getting out there gets seen and heard. And that's really a key, right? To be seen and heard. The truth about publicity is it puts you in front of your competition and it gets you into people's minds and creates that visibility factor that gets you known, seen, and heard and paid. That's good too.
And that's always great. And it's hard work. People really underestimate how hard this work is that you and other professionals like you do. My daughter does this on a global basis in the healthcare space. So it is hard. And this book is a fabulous book because it really gives you good insights into what you have to do in a variety of different tactics that you could use. Do you advocate putting a plan together before obtaining publicity?
A couple things. One is, I just want you all to do publicity. If you have to take baby steps and do that, just do it, right? It's like the reality on publicity is sometimes it will be a big blast out, woo, and you'll have a very specific plan. And, with a lot of my publicity clients, particularly higher end, yes, we create the whole year plan. We blueprint it, right? Like, what are the holidays, for instance? That's one plan I'd like you to think about. What are the holidays that you can connect to that will be appropriate for what you're up to? Good stuff, right? That's a plan. That's a simple enough plan that all of you can start with. And I think that's a beautiful thing. But really, in my opinion, you want to do everything you can and use everything you've got. Mark, I think that'd be a really fun thing to talk about, using everything you've got, because this is a way that a lot of my clients have, and my publicity boot camps have gotten into the media easily and simply without extensive plans. I call it use everything you've got. So that's a hot tip and a big topic.
So explain what that means.
So, okay, what that means is you use everything from your ethnicity, your religion, your age. I have a gentleman, he owns an insurance company. He's 64 when I met him. You know what we got him in? AARP's Modern Maturity, one of the biggest publication in the United States. Got him into that. Why? Because, well, he's over 50 actually for AARP, right? And let me just tell you, that is what grew his business. That is what got people paying attention to his next project. And the pitch was third career, right? It was just an interesting pitch. For my Hispanic audience, I would say let's use Hispanic media, right? For one of the women I was working with, she is a business communications coach. And we were doing a great story about how to effectively communicate in business, getting great publicity. And then Black History Month is in February. I said to her, let's talk about you being, or how to be a strong Black woman communicating in today's times, right? And that's the story that got her 5 more very specific, focused magazines and media, newspapers, because of using everything she's got. So what I want you to look at right now is how could you use everything about you? My Christian clients go to Christian media, Jewish clients to Jewish media. You get the drill, right? I want you to use all parts of who you are. Being a woman for International Women's Day, yes, that's excellent too. Whatever. So look ahead and say, what can I be using? Everything you've got. Another great example, if I may, this gentleman was in my publicity boot camp, and I look across the screen, I do everything on Zoom, and I say, may I ask you what ethnicity you are? And he says, I'm Pakistani. I said, great, I want you right now, where do you live? He said, LA. I said, I want you right now to look up LA Pakistani newsletters. There were 5 of them, Mark. He actually got in 3 of them by, guess what? Just the fact that he's Pakistani. So you see where I'm talking about? You can use all parts of who you are, everything that you do, and that will increase your media. Let me tell you, by getting in that those three, Pakistani newsletters, do you know what happened? He added 20,000 people to his email list.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of reach I'm talking about, because publicity gets you more reach, more credibility, more visibility, more clients, more prospects. And out of that kind of numbers, it's really, publicity is an attraction factor. It brings people to you. It brings people to you. And so, Mark, this is where, and I got to tell you, I like sound bites, and I want you each to think about how you can do more sound bites. So, for example, publicity gives you the 3 M's, which is to magnetize you, to monetize you, and to multiply you, right? To monetize you, to magnetize you, and to multiply you. 3 M's. So how can you, as you're listening to this, I want you to be thinking about, wow, what's some cool and interesting things I can, shall we say, put out there that's a soundbite, that's edgy, that's focused, or that's even interesting, that has some alliteration and some ways to connect to you, right? That's what I'm saying.
Excellent, excellent. And I agree with all that. And I'm 62, so I got to look at AARP for my podcast, and because I started it when I was 60. So yeah, I think that's a good idea, and one I had not yet pursued myself. You write that publicity is a mindset, a constant and instinctive focus in life. What do you mean by that?
Well, a couple things. Here's the thing. You all are business owners, right? That means you're being in business, you're serving people, you're contributing. People need to know about you. This is not a put a foot on the gas and then leave. This is an ongoing, keep your foot. You don't have to pedal to the metal all the time, right? But you need to be, here's the words to write down: consistent and persistent with your publicity focus. That means you keep your publicity antennas up. These are my publicity antennas, right? You keep your publicity antennas up so that people keep connected to you. And that you're also looking for opportunities to get out there and stay visible. One of my clients, she's a firefighter, and actually she's a leadership business coach now. She formerly a firefighter. Now, when the earthquakes happened in Syria and Turkey, a very sad event, I called her up and I said, I know we're talking about leadership, but I want you to talk about first responding right now, which, by the way, we have her, how do you put out fires in your business? How do you first respond in better ways? So we keep tying what she does into what she did into what she does now. So I want you always to be looking at using all parts of who you are, all parts of who you are.
So a question from the audience: using all you are makes sense for B2C businesses, but what about B2B businesses? What's your advice on that?
Well, the reality is, I'm just wanting you to have media, right? So if you're in the local business journal, let's say, or even another editor, let's say a business editor writes about you in any paper around the world, or you're featured in your local ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox TV, et cetera, media, listen, you're going to reach your business customers. The point I'm talking about is finding that pin, the point where you can put the pin down, and then I promise you, you will reach the people you want to reach. So one of the things you might look at, Michael, who asked it? Jeff. You might look at, Jeff, is that you want to look at who are your target customers, and then let's find the media that serves them. That's probably your best answer, is let's find the media that serves your customers. That'll be key.
So let me, another question from the audience. Our ideal target market is early and growing software as a service company, SaaS companies. If I want to get publicity in my target market, where do I start? Where do I focus? And what's the high level strategy I should use to get publicity?
Michael, we're probably going to have to come offline on that one. That's a big one. But I have to tell you, I've worked with software companies before. And here's the thing about it. It's a big subject, especially very technical. So one of the things I'd always want to look at is really who's your target. I'm just reading your question again. The question, really who's your target market? And so, when you're asking where do I start, the question would be, okay, who absolutely is that? If it is, let's call it small business owners, we got to get after what small business owners are reading, watching, and listening to. One thing I have to tell you, when I wrote Guerrilla Publicity, I interviewed Entrepreneur Magazine. And one of the things she said, the editor, she said, what we care about is what our readers care about. Okay, so I want you to hear that because I think it's a good answer to one of your questions. And so here's, a good lesson for all of you. And Michael, for you too, it's not necessarily, here's what I do, right? Software, service, right? A SaaS company. The question is, how does it serve the readers, the viewers, the listeners of the media that you want to target? And that's the message we have to find. And so it's a little bit more of a drill down, right? I don't want to just off the cuff throw out something that that may or may not work, but I will tell you that we first have to target who the exact audience really is. That's where you start. If it is small business owners, let's start at business editors across the nation, as well as small business journals. You see where I'm going with that? Kind of a first look in, then we widen the net. In some of your cases, we've got to start with a wide net and narrow in. Michael, I have a feeling with you, we got to start narrow and then widen out.
And I'll make the connection for you too, in case there could be, that you could be helpful to him. We have another question from the audience. We have a Nausean podcast about travel planning and are looking to bring on influencers for interviews. What's your recommendation for a good way to go about this?
Okay. So congratulations. That's super great. And a couple things, Adelaide. Number one, you need to be getting publicity for you as, starting your podcast, which is phenomenal, right? One of the things, so let me just start with that, and then I'll go to part B of the question. One of the things I highly recommend, that's a strategy I like to, shall we say, practice, is I want all of you to do what I call an announcement. Every 60 days, an announcement. What I mean by that, I mean in your local papers, where you live, there is a section in your daily paper and in your local business journal. It's called People, or People in the News, or something like that, right? Well, guess who you are? People. So Adelaide, Adelaide started recently a podcast called blah, blah, blah. And then your quick short bio. I'm big on short bios for these things, okay? That goes into what's called the announcement section. It's actually a very specific section. And then I actually have a longer list for other places you can send it. But listen, start locally. It'll be a great place to start. And so that's number one. Number two is, and you want to keep your publicity focused on driving people to listen to your podcast, of course. The other piece is, I would hope you know somewhat, who are the influencers in travel. Okay, so frankly, here's the good news. Everybody wants more publicity. I mean, really, do you all want more publicity? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Because I know you do, right? Of course you do. So guess what, Adelaide? You are providing a service, right, to the influencers who know they're influencers because they know the power of publicity. So with that, you're going to just basically say, hey, I'm inviting you onto my podcast. And the conditions of one of the podcasts, and you know what, this is, frankly, all people who have people on their podcast say, hey, would you please help promote it, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. So you're going to ask them to promote it, but Adelaide, you're going to make it very easy for them to do that. You're going to give them swipe copy. You're going to give them easy things to post. And you will ask them to not only be on your show, but also, would you please share it? So I think that's a great way to start.
There's also a platform that allows people to find podcast guests. They match podcast guests with shows, and they also will match people who want to be on podcasts with shows that meet their criteria. So I'm forgetting what the name, but I had a guest on my show and he uses it quite often. and I'm sure it's super easy to find. And for Adelaide, you can always contact me and I'll find it for you.
It's
Another
called
question.
Podmatch, Mark.
Podmatch.
Podmatch. That's
Thank
one
you.
of them. That's one of them. And Mark, we have others if you need the support. We have,
Yeah.
we have at least 2 others, but one of them is Podmatch.
Go ahead and name them. If
I
you
can't
want to.
remember. There's a Facebook group that's a very strong, basically a matchmaking piece. And there's one other one. I teach this in my boot camps, and I apologize, it's not right off the top of my notes here. But certainly we have the resources if you need them.
Excellent. Another question from the audience. How do you do due diligence on publications and other sources?
Well, first of all, a media list is what I'll call it, is your due diligence. In other words, well, I don't know exactly what you're asking underneath that, but I have a feeling it may be related to what I might call paid advertising or paid publicity. And I will tell you that honestly, there is paid publicity, right? There just is. In other words, you can earn your way in, like what I'm teaching you to do. It's free, or you can pay for really what looks like publicity. It's called advertorials. And by the way, in some cases, like I have one of my clients, we are doing that because it makes sense for them. They're an audiologist. It just makes sense for them, right? And by the way, by doing an advertorial, which means it looks like an article, it looks like it's, generating, but meanwhile, it's in a family publication and they're doing an average of $4,000 a month in business from that one piece of publicity / advertising. So when you say, and maybe that was different than what you're asking, but I think it's important to know.
I think he also was asking, when you're doing your due diligence, a combination of that and also how do you go and make sure that's the right publication to write to it? And of course, the right writer, because I'm on both sides. I write a national column for American City Business Journals, and I get pitched things. And a lot of times people are pitching you I'm not the right person to pitch to. So how do you go about making sure that, and I get this from my podcast, every day I'm inundated with people writing to me about getting their boss on my show. And I said, well, have they written a book? Because they tell me what a great show it is, but they've never even looked at the podcast. They just saw the best business minds. So when you're doing your due diligence, what do you suggest for that to make sure that you're a good match for whatever publication writer you're contacting?
Well, what I would call it is getting the right media list. Okay. So the right media list means, and Jason, part of that is who do you really, again, kind of like what we're talking about with Michael, and who do you really need to reach, right? Like, do you need business shows like Mark's show? Do you need business? And generally we'll call it in the area of business. Once you get that identified, now we can start narrowing down. I'm always big, I will tell you, I'm always big on a strategy called get local also, right? Get local also. Why do I say that? Because what I've seen again and again is that from your local media, you often jump to national, because you know what, my friends, national, like, Good Morning America and your bigger shows are watching the feeds from your local ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox TV, etc., affiliates, radio and TV. So I'm really big on always start local, even though you serve nationally and internationally. If you do, even if you're not a brick and mortar, it doesn't matter. What matters is to get some publicity, because publicity is like, well, if anyone lives in snow, you probably know what building a snowball is like. I actually live in California, but I'm from Michigan. And so what I know is that, when you're building a snowball, you have to keep packing it up and it creates momentum, right? The thing about a media campaign is you build momentum. So I would tell you, honestly, it's not like most media is there's not really scams. It's finding the right media list that serves your market. I think that's really what I want to just say about that. It's the right medias that serve your market.
So where do they buy a media list, and what should they expect to pay for a media list?
Okay, can I put it in the chat? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
because I got a great resource. And by the way, the things I sent you, if you could post that in the chat, that's great too. But
Yeah, I think they all went into the chat.
oh, actually, just to you.
Okay, I'll make sure I copy and paste that in for everybody else.
You're awesome. Thank you. Okay, this is my resource. And basically, let me just tell you, he can put together a media list for you. Tell him I sent you. I don't get anything from it, but you will be treated better. And let me just say, he puts together, he's licensed from something that's a bigger service. And bottom line is he creates a media list that's right for you. And you could say, I need all the health magazines. I need the business publications in XYZ. I want, fill in the blank, and he will orient a media list for you. It's like $300. It's totally worth it. You don't have to Google it. He's a fantastic source. I will tell you between us that I use him every time one of my books come out. I will use him to write a press release and send it out. That's $9.97. Super great. And what I love about it, this is my what I love about it is I get actual logos from the media themselves, and then I get to put it onto all of my social media and websites. So if you go to profitofkindness.com for my newest book, you'll see what we did is we took all the logos and we put them onto the page, and that all came from doing this service. So I love it. It's just one-stop shop and easy and simple.
You also have to be persistent because I do similar work for my clients, and I got one on CBS, and it took like a year. And then he was a turnaround lawyer. And when they finally needed a turnaround lawyer, here was this independent guy sitting by himself in Philadelphia, and he was on the national news for an entire week. So persistency really matters.
Yeah, and Mark, thank you. It's just, I want to underline that. Here's the two words, write them down. Be persistent and consistent. And here's the thing, this is not a one-stop, like one date kind of thing, right? You have to stay in the game, my friends. And I love it when people say to me, oh, but they didn't call me back. Guess what? The media is busy. And if you stay consistent and persistent with them, hey, I'm calling you about the information I sent you. Please don't say press release. Yeah. The information I sent you about, boom, fill in the blank. And, it's so powerful. Listen, I'm going to tell you a client of mine, she got in the Minneapolis Star Tribune. She got one sentence in a roundup article, right? Which that means they talked about a number of business consultants. Then she went into an interview that a gentleman was having. He said, hey, I Googled you. I saw you in the Minneapolis Star Tribune. She got the gig. She got it. Why? Because he Googled her and he found her in the Minneapolis Star Tribune. It was only one sentence. Media matters and makes a significant difference for each one of you, and it puts you way above anyone else. I promise you that.
Another question from the audience. Considering these days people are always on their phones, when would be the best place to make when would be the best place and I guess time to make announcements?
Okay. So a couple things. Number one, the announcement strategy, which I'll call it, I talked to you about just a little bit earlier, is every 60 days. Listen, I'm big on systems. I'm a systems girl. I think you can have systems for publicity and blueprints for things. So I have a 30-day system and a 60 and a 90-day. The 60-day system, it's the announcement strategy I gave you. That's your local, get your announcement into the media locally. That I mentioned to you about People Magazine, that works really good. Every 60 days, come up with an announcement, right? And it could be that you launched your company, that you've got a new product coming out, that you've got a new hire that you just recently had. It could be many things, my friends. Make it up, put it out there. That's the piece. And be consistent and persistent with that. That's really powerful. So that's one strategy I want you all to adopt. Quickly, simple, and it's simple and easy and costs nothing. We love that.
And what advice do you have for businesses that are targeting parents aged 32 to 45 years old? What's the best way to get in front of those folks?
Okay, so number one, parenting magazines is probably where I'd go first, and kind of stay focused there. I mean, and I can't quite see the question in the chat, but read the question to me again, Mark.
I was just saying they're looking for, they want to know what's the best way to targeting parents age 32 to 45 years old. What advice do you have for that?
Thank you. I'd probably stay mostly with, I'll call it parenting magazines. And frankly, I'd go after women because women make a lot of decisions and purchasing power. So I'd go after women's magazines, not, targeting again, younger categories like First for Women or not probably Ladies Home Journal, but maybe Family Circle, surprisingly enough. Things that would target families, parenting, and women is the three areas I would go.
Another question, is there some good centralized place to research more niche focused news and media sources? Again, we focus on SaaS. How do we get the right media list?
Yeah, I'd honestly really stay with Dan on that. He's your guy. He can get narrow for you. He can get narrow for you. That'll be good.
Is there? Oh, okay. So great. How do you? And we've asked the publicity. Whoops, excuse me. Any advice on due diligence of influencers? What about influencers?
Influencers. Well, influencers are publicity. I mean, I'm just going to tell you. And when you get publicity, guess what you are, my friends? An influencer. I mean, really, when you look at, I'll call it the pyramid and the pinnacle of how you are seen and heard, influencer and celebrity are right at the top. Just saying. Okay. I just came off a 3-day mastermind with one of my mentors. Influencers and celebrities are right at the top. So an influencer writing about you, being with you, connecting to you is just as much great publicity. And, if they put 1 or 2 lines about you, you are in, right? You are in. And how powerful is that? So go ahead, Mark.
I was going to just clarify things. Dan's charge, is that $997, or is it $9.97?
Oh, it's $300 for the media list. And what I said to you is I've actually done I'll call it next level service when I have my books, or if you have something you've got to really push out there. It's $997 with guaranteed. I think he guarantees at least 50, but I know I got like 120, which was super great. Actual people to put in the profit of kindness, something about it. And then I got to transfer all the logos to my website, as well as all my social media and anywhere else I want to. So that's that service. He'll explain the distinctions.
But to clarify, it's $997.
Thank you. Yes, Mark, $997.
And the email you gave, anybody can write to him, correct? I'm sure he'd appreciate the business.
Yeah, just say you heard Jill on a podcast and that's it.
Excellent. Thanks for your insights. And 6 times a year, I get an email from media I'd never heard of promising a full page editorial section with my piece, with my picture. If I buy reprints for $3,000, is there any value to this?
Okay, John, that's exactly what I was referring to before. And that's really an advertorial is what they're asking you to do, to pay $3,000, look like it's publicity. Honestly, it depends what it is and what magazine it is. And I'm not, big on a lot of them, to be honest, because I think you can, remember I talked about you can earn your way in, or you can buy your way in, honestly. And there are lots of opportunities for that. So what I'm going to say to you, and by the way, I'm putting my schedule if any of you need to meet with me directly, because the truth about some of these is they're not great to do. It wouldn't be a great investment for you. And in some cases, very little, small cases, it might be an okay investment. And, honestly, I kind of look at that one by one with people. Mostly, I don't love people spending that kind of money on advertising because it's kind of a one-off. If there's a good reason to do it, like in other words, now it gives you a portfolio, it gives you something in hand to demonstrate to people, good, maybe it's worth it. I just often think, unless it's very specifically oriented to your target market, and that it's not good to do, typically, with
Yeah,
some exceptions, with some
I
rare.
agree with you because it also says advertorial at the bottom. And the font's different and people typically go over it, but I can understand with the client you mentioned where it was successful that for them because it was an educational piece, I'm assuming. And that's why people called them because they needed that product and that was very helpful. So
Yeah, and education is great. And I'm really big on you do, frankly, everything you can to create publicity, which is free marketing for you. These opportunities you're pointing to are really advertising opportunities.
how about due diligence on influencers? Influencers are less professional, may have pre-existing relationships with competitors, can make or break a company. How do you find the good eggs?
Yeah, good question, Jason. I mean, here's the thing. Your due diligence is just as important. So, if somebody's asking you to do something for them or be, in their, whether they interview you or do a piece about you, I mean, frankly, you've got to do your due diligence too. Do you get a good feeling? Do you like their style? Are they sharp? Are they good people? Are they, do you think they'll present you in the best way? And frankly, you can say no. You can just kind of back away slowly, as I like to say. You don't have to say no. You don't have to make them wrong. You don't have to do anything. You just say, thank you for the opportunity. Right now, that doesn't work for me, or whatever, right? But do your due diligence too, and that applies to all the things we've been talking about with the advertorials, with the lists, with frankly, listen, I've been in this business 30 years. You don't stay in this business unless the right people and you do things the right way. And I've seen people a lot come and go in this publicity business, I'll call it, including people who promise you things about books and all kinds of stuff. And I've just learned to discern, right? And I think your discernment is going to be key. And like everything good news these days, you can easily Google and then make a decision. Do you want to have a relationship, whether they're an influencer or not? Doesn't matter. Sometimes you can have your own influence through publicity in better ways.
I think also influencers have lost a lot of their luster because they're willing to go and sell anybody. I mean, as long as you're willing to write that check to them. And so you have to be super careful about the influencers that they have credibility still in the marketplace. And because we see this all the time, right? I mean, if they have a list of 50,000 or 100,000 or 1,000,000 people, here's our price point. You tell us which one you want. And the influencer has no idea because they have a team of 10 or 12 people that's vetting these things. And they go, great, we signed another deal and signed another deal. We made our number. So you have to be super careful. Is it good advice to connect with the media, I guess the writers directly, or editors via social media? How should you contact them through Twitter and so forth, and LinkedIn?
Yeah, great question, Linda. Here's the thing. What I love to suggest is that you actually connect to yes, both editors, mostly reporters on social media, whatever your drug of choice is, as I like to call it. Like if you hang out on LinkedIn, then go after those on LinkedIn. If you're on, Facebook or Instagram or wherever you are, go after the people where your presence is best, right? Like, just let's be focused on where your presence is best so that they can find you pretty darn simply too, and that they'll see you have good following and good traction. So I think that's important. But I would, yes, look for, it's part of the strategy that I always teach is look for reporters is what I'll say. You could say they might be editors. They might be different. They might have different titles, I'll call it. But let's say look for reporters on social media. They do often hang out on Twitter, interestingly enough. And I will promise you, if you're on LinkedIn, absolutely there are reporters on LinkedIn. Find them, start relationships with them. Don't actually ask lots of favors in the beginning, except here's your exception. If there is a story, let me just tell you, every reporter wants somebody to talk about it. So, if you've got the solution, because in my world, I talk about media is they need you, the experts who have solutions to problems. So once you identify that solution, my friends, you are the source that they need. So that's why they call them sources. So let me just tell you, do not be shy. Go after media when you know that you're the solution, and just be forthright about it. Hey, listen, I know that there's XXX happening in the world. Well, here's what I've got. Here's the solution. Boom, boom, boom. And they will love you. They will want you. But let's, in the meanwhile, get all of you started on building those relationships. And yeah, your social media is one way to find them. But I'm going to tell you, and it might apply to one of the next questions here, is that social media does not take the place of publicity. Okay, should we underline that? Social media does not take the place of publicity. People are still watching TV, and if your TV is your phone or your computer, terrific. But guess what? Forbes and Entrepreneur and major business publications, including all the business journals, have both their written and their online columns, right, Mark? I mean, you
Yeah, I read an online column for the Business Journal nationally. Yeah.
Exactly. So how great is that? So here's the thing. People go, oh my God, has publicity diminished? Actually, publicity has doubled, my friends. What do I mean by that? Your opportunities have doubled. Not only do you have we'll call traditional media, but you also have access to all the digital possibilities now, all the online possibilities, all the things that you never had access to before, including making your own publicity. Get this, hang on, your own LinkedIn lives, your own Facebook lives, your own, fill in the blank, whatever you use, drug of choice live. You get to do your own live stuff now. How fantastic is that?
You gave them, you made a great suggestion to them, the people often forget, and that is, if you have a lot of followers yourself, that makes a big difference to the writer, because the writer wants to get as many clicks on the story as possible. So if you're able to get that story, and then when they've written about you, and you send that link out on your LinkedIn and other social media, and the editor sees more people clicking on that story because you're in that story, they're going to come to you more often to get quotes and so forth. So they need that in order to sell advertising. So you've given them a great suggestion that very few people really think about. Another question, when we're reaching out to our specific media audience, can you give us a high-level framework of how to approach them and what to say?
Okay, so that's Michael's question. Thank you. So a couple things. I am big on, and if you look at Guerrilla Publicity, we talk about the rule of 7. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean, you got to figure you're going to connect to your media resource, I'll call it, at least 7 times. And this is where people lose the publicity game, because they try it once or twice, they get discouraged, and then they back away. So here's the thing. Media's busy. Okay, so you're going to approach them first with a press release, the exception being if there's a high breaking story, I'll call it, hot breaking story, and you've got the answer. In that case, pick up the freaking phone and talk to them. Just say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling and I have something to support that with, or, you get the
Yeah,
gist.
right. I mean, as long as it connects with the story they're doing, then they can use you as a source, and it could end up being more. I had once had a client that provided the credit cards for parking meters, and there was a protest about parking meters. And so I connected him with the Inquirer. They did a page and a half. It was like enormous. He just couldn't get over it. Right place, right time.
Well, a page and a half. And if I may share with you something that how we measure in the world of publicity, Mark, a page and a half of advertising in that particular market probably would have cost easily over 100 to 500,000, depending on the market and
yeah,
how.
The Inquirer it was, yeah. And
oh my God!
And it was the Sunday section, so yeah. They have the biggest number of readers.
So I just want you all to know how you measure ROI.
Yeah.
One of the ways on publicity is that if you had to pay for that much space, like Mark mentioned, his client got so exciting, I'll just call that a $500,000 value, because that's probably about what it was. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. You're as well. Next question. Do you think every publicity has to be digital publicity to matter these days? Like, does print even matter anymore? Or does it
Marjan?
always have to be digital?
Yes, Marjan, thank you for that. I hope I pronounced your name right. And let me just tell you, everything matters. Everything matters and everything counts. So actually, I really think it's profound and has tremendous impact for you to be on TV, radio, to have things in print, because here's the thing, you can always distribute that. You can walk into a client meeting and hand them a reprint from an actual print magazine, even digital. What I would do is still print it out. There is power in handing someone I've been featured in. The links with all your digital I've been featured in should be attached to your signature. I mean, not every single one of them, but maybe the highest level, right? It needs to be on your website with, of course, links to where you've been seen and heard. In fact, I want all of you to have a media page on your website, and then click here. That's when they can go to wherever you've been seen and heard. But let me just share with you, everything matters. And traditional media, and I've had this discussion with pretty major people in the media industry, and everybody agrees, nothing is going away. Yes, we have less newspapers, fine, but we have more opportunities. That's what I was saying earlier. We have more opportunities to be seen and heard than ever before, because we have digital. And treat digital as if it were traditional, meaning you've been featured in Forbes.com, right? One of my clients, he got in CNN. He runs a nonprofit, major nonprofit. CNN.com raised $100,000 for his nonprofit. I mean, isn't that amazing, right? And by the way, I want to tell this story because it's a good one.
Of course.
So he runs a nonprofit agency to help orient and get back foster kids to their family in Central America, right? And there's a lot of them, by the way, who need to be reunited. So obviously, when the whole thing with kids in cages came out, I said to him, you have to talk about this. He said, Jill, I just reunite kids in Central America with their foster kids back with their families. I said, yes. But this is the story that's going to get you into the press. And so, shaking in his boots and with, frankly, some very specific media coaching from me about what to say and how to bridge it, guess what he got into? CNN.com, the Washington Post, Associated Press, his San Diego Union Tribune, ABC TV in San Diego, where he lives, all kinds of amazing stuff, because we found the link and we pushed the right button, as I like to call it, to be connected to a story that was hot, even though that's not exactly what he did. I want you all to hear that. And because he did that, he raised over $100,000 for his nonprofit. And that was all through traditional publicity.
Yeah, I think the other things they have to keep in mind is write short and to the point, because the media gets so much stuff. And write to them about something that's unique, not that you just got this big sale or whatever, because you're not Facebook, nobody cares. So if you're going to write to them with something that's going to be interesting for the audience. Think about what you'd want to read about when you're doing it. Another question here is, it used to be the case that folks placing PR had relationships with a reporter and publicists that they could tap into. Now it seems that we're dealing with folks in the media whom we don't know. Does that put us at a disadvantage? And if not, how best to grab their attention at the moment?
Yeah, and Barbara, that is true. Listen, my PR agency 15 years ago, people paid me $5,000 a month because I had quote unquote relationships. But let me tell you the truth, I didn't have relationships with every media across the country, in every, big and small market across the world. No way. I mean, no publicist does. And if they tell you they do, run the other way. But listen, $4,000 and $5,000 a month is what you pay most publicity experts now. Same thing, by the way, it's kind of not gone up. Funny enough, it actually went down and up and up and down. But point is, for $5,000 a month, we'll call it, you can actually do the things you need to do by shortcutting, which is what I'm big on. I like to shortcut people in ways to the media. So here's the thing. Catching their attention is about pushing the right button that I was talking about, right? And finding the right people to connect to. This is why I'm so big on let's go local. Local is important. Let's go, nationwide and international, depending on where you all are. I'm sure you might be anywhere around the world. And some people want to, be international, let's say, and then come back into the States. I mean, it depends what you want to accomplish. But I want you all to think about publicity from a larger perspective, to know that you aren't at any disadvantage. I mean, the reality is you have more access into media than you've ever had before. Why? Because, well, they know that, here's the thing, they know that you are the solution providers. They know that you are the experts that they need to interview. And so the truth is they're also looking for you. Sometimes they're hard to reach. I'll just, that's the truth about it. They do keep a bit of almost like an arm, I'll call it an armed guardery, an armory around them, just a little bit. And that's purposeful. Mark, you can relate to this because everybody's constantly pitching you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so there's a bit of, oh God, here it comes, but the other truth is they also need great people. They need great people and they want you. They promise you. They want you to be able to be the expert that they can count on. And I think that that's really important. How do you grab their attention? You grab their attention with an important story that's relevant. And Mark said something really important I hope you were listening to, and that is, it's not about, oh, I just sold whatever, or I, closed this client or whatever it is. That's not the news. The question, my friends, and I want you really to be with this a little bit, is what is the news that actually is relevant to who you're pitching? Mark has me on this show because I'm an expert in publicity, because I've written books, right? Because he did his research, and that is a beautiful thing. Here's the thing, media needs to know that you can provide value and benefit. Those are two key words. You got to give value and benefit all the time. And so remember, as much as, of course, you're promoting something, let's be honest, you're promoting something. I want you to be okay with that. I want you to be clear with what you're promoting, right? And I think that it's fine to be able to promote, but realize it's not the media's job to promote you. Which leads me, Mark, if I may say, that
Yes.
you still need to be able to promote yourself. I mean, listen, up in the chat, we put, I'm running a publicity challenge. I want to invite you to it, right? I invite you to schedule a time with me if that's appropriate for you. I'm inviting you to my kindness circle, right? These are all opportunities to connect and be connected. So here's what I want to say to you. You need to be clear about what you're offering to people. So have maybe one thing, just a simple one thing. I like free gifts, and those are really good, So free gifts are good, and you have all kinds of ways to reach people. But when you are in media, and listen, I've been featured in like major Fox News, and I will go into. I remember when Prophet of Kindness came out, I was on 7 Fox News TV interviews in the first 30 days. Let me tell you, when I was being interviewed in that lovely, room, the thing I would ask the producer is, hey, did you spell my name right? Right? I mean, make sure your name's spelled right. And are you usually they'll put it on blue screen. So just make sure of these things, that your company name's spelled correctly, that you know what it is you're actually promoting, and be clear about that. Just saying, it's important.
Next question. Have you seen any creative tactics by creators to hit viewing hours for monetization on YouTube? Do you have any thoughts on this? So I guess, who's good on YouTube and how do you monetize YouTube?
I wish I could tell you a good answer to that. I am not an expert on YouTube. I'm actually about to hire someone myself because, frankly, I've been running these kindness circles. I want it all over YouTube, right? I teach a publicity boot camp. I want it over YouTube. I mean, parts of it. So my answer is I don't quite have an answer to that. Yeah.
Okay. So that's all right. You were direct with her. What are your thoughts on HARO, HARO? And I get those all the time, every day. Help a reporter out. So how valuable is that? Is it useful? Should you reply to them? Are you wasting your time because there's a million people replying to? What's your thoughts?
Tammy, great question. And I'm a big proponent of HARO. Okay, so here's what I do. I have team. I'm big on team. And by the way, one of the things she does is looks for podcasts for me. Okay. That's one of the people on my team. And one of my other team, he reads my HARO every day. So I'm in HARO for business, for publicity, for marketing. He'll go through all the leads and see what's relevant, what counts. I'm going to suggest to you that one of the gentlemen in my publicity boot camp recently, he's a financial planner. Now there's all kinds of compliance issues on financial planning. I know that. And I said to him, let's look for using everything you've got. Remember, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. So guess what? His wife had breast cancer. He didn't know what to do. He's like, I didn't know what to do. And he struggled with it. He wrote a guy's guide to breast cancer. That's what got him into a HARO query about breast cancer. He answered it on behalf of dealing with this matter with his wife, who now is doing very well. And guess who got into HARO, featured in this? That one blog post upgraded his web hits by 37% and got him 12 prospects, literally from that one HARO query, and 9 of them became clients. Yahoo, right? Is that good stats? It's great stats. I love HARO. It's consistent. It is a lot, yes. Keep your eye on it. Just stay focused on answering. Put blinders on and only answer things in your category. Disregard everything else.
It's funny you should say it. This morning, my daughter called me and she said, my best friend's a palliative care doctor. And she said on HARO, the London Times is looking for an expert to talk about palliative care. And so she said, hey, I got to call Uncle Stephen. And she did. And then she connected him with the reporter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's exactly. The thing I want you all to learn from today, I know we're coming toward the top of the hour, but the thing I really want you to take home, so to speak, is to really broaden your mind, expand your mind with the possibilities of what publicity could mean for you and how you can get in it so that you're using everything you've got, all parts of who you are, your total story, your ethnicity, your religion, everything about you, that you can create and expand the possibilities of publicity to get you seen, get you heard, and get you paid, my friends, because that is what it does.
So let's do another question from the audience. How often do you think a small business should send a newsletter without being annoying to its prospects?
Okay, so that's a newsletter question, but newsletters are publicity.
Yes.
I don't know if you're talking on email or like a hard copy.
I think everybody's talking email, e-newsletters now.
Well, yes, and funny enough, one of my main mentors.
That's what she said as well, email.
Email? Okay, thank you, great. So, because I'll tell you something, one of my main mentors, he's now sending a hard copy. Funny enough that you actually get to touch and feel, because don't you all miss a little bit touch and feel mail? I mean, occasionally, right? So just saying, you might want to think about that from a marketing perspective, very occasionally sending out a hard copy newsletter. But from an email perspective, I do it once a month. Some people don't think that's enough. Meaning, you have to make your own decision. I want to feel that I am giving people great value. And by the way, my once a month email newsletter has a very short tidbit on a great PR tip. It's like a great PR, and I usually tie it to something fun. Like when I went, to the ocean and saw a whale bone, I go, I'm going to give you a whale of a publicity tip, right? And I show me with a picture next to the whale bone, just something fun. It was personal. It was fun. Tie yourself to something, interesting if you can. Show pictures of you doing real things with real people. That's always good. Personally, I'm a once a month, but some people would disagree. And I'm not saying I only send out an email once a month, but I only send out my email newsletter once a month. The rest are telling people about my publicity bootcamp or other things that I want them to be aware of.
Jill, thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about, and it's funny, we had 30 questions, we got 7 questions in, and it really showed how much the audience wanted to speak to you, because They asked all the rest of the questions for the 45 minutes. So I'm thrilled that everybody was so engaged. So thank you for taking the time, and thanks to the audience for such great questions.
Thank you, everybody.
Jill, hope to see you again. Let's talk about your other book, and we'll have to put you on the schedule for that too.
Thank you, Mark. I'd love to do that. I appreciate being here.
Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you, everybody. Bye, Mark.